Hello, 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 everybody, and welcome back to the stream. I'm Alessis. We're once again getting an interview with one of the EUROBOWL 2024 in Greece teams. This time we'll be joined by the Welsh team captain and vice captain. Please do introduce yourself.
Hi guys, I'm no number, captain of Team Wales.
And I'm G Coleman 76, pseudo vice captain because I led them to home nations, I guess.
All right, welcome, both of you, and I again appreciate your time, like making the time to be here. Know it's a hectic time with all of the preparations coming up for the tournament, so I appreciate you both
Yeah, no
indulging
problem.
me. But let's get on with it, shall we? First off, I would like to know a little bit about like the both of yours, like sort of how long have you been with like the Wales national squad, and like your experiences so far with it. If you wouldn't mind starting,
Yeah,
Mr.
sure.
Captain.
Yeah, yeah. So I made my first appearance for Wales in I think it was 2012, Copenhagen. That was my first EuroBowl. A lot's changed since then.
Hmm.
The team's grown, the squad's grown. In those first few years, we did have a lot of freebooters on the team. Um, But we're certainly in a bigger place now than we were then.
Managed to yourself a good core in the team then.
Yeah, yeah. I guess to be honest, probably every nation has gone through the same thing. It's a more popular game than it was then. I mean, it was perfectly popular. Obviously, the fact that we're able to actually do Euro Bowls and World Cups and stuff.
Hmm.
Not every game system had that, even during the years pre 2016. But since then, obviously, more and more players have come into the circuit, and that's given, I think, probably all the smaller nations that we're, included in, a bigger player base to choose from.
Absolutely, and getting new blood into the community is generally just always a good thing, because well, if there isn't any new blood coming in, then hobby will unfortunately die out sometime. So it's good to know. Like I've been playing Blood Bowl myself since Chaos Edition of the first Blood Bowl, like the first Cyanide game, which was what 2000 and single digits somewhere, I think. So
Yeah,
yeah, my exposure to like the tabletop side of the hobby has been somewhat limited, I would say, but it is certainly like even to sort of like somebody who's been just like spectating from the side, it is nice to see that the hobby has grown in popularity and like Euroball, for example, like seems like that it like the sort of organization behind it is getting better and better every year. And like from what I've had heard from these interviews, like the a lot of the team people in the teams also consider that like the level of competition has also rose accordingly. Like that there's a lot of good teams out there now.
Oh yeah,
yeah, sure. Go on, Gav. You say
Yeah,
some words for a bit.
yeah.
yeah,
Please do enlighten us, G. Coleman, on your personal history with.
yeah. So my first EuroBowl was in Cardiff. Basically, I was quite lucky. I went to the UKTC that year, and I played Jim Jiminy, and I think I played Podfree, and Pooh with Stick on the end, all England internationals. And I did all right against them. And with it being Cardiff, when you're hosting, obviously you lose some of your players to the organising team.
Mm,
So Cy Fisher was the captain that year, and because of my record at the UKTC, Cy contacted me and asked me if I wanted to represent Wales, and I was kind of blown away. And after that, that was first time I really started playing tabletop again, and um, I decided after that experience was so good, I decided to see if I could qualify for Wales again. So the Welsh setup actually has a fairly detailed way to qualify,
mm.
and it's quite competitive each year. and you kind of to actually to qualify, you need to finish as one of the top 3 coaches from the previous EuroBowl. And then the next 3 are selected from a qualifying league that runs through a calendar year. And the top 3 people with their best 3 tournament win percentages get picked via that route. And then the captain is elected from those 6 people. And then the captain has two separate picks, depending on the racial mix-up amongst the rest of the coaches. And you look and you kind of fill gaps with the captain's picks. So that's what we do. So yeah, I was lucky enough to qualify for Poland, but then Poland got cancelled.
Yeah.
And that carried over to Malta. And in Malta, I finished as the 3rd best coach. So I also qualified for Greece. So yeah, that's how we've got to where we are. So yeah, it's quite competitive. I think we call it the TWECL, which stands for the Welsh EuroBowl Qualifying League, and I think it's got about 80 odd coaches on it now. It's quite competitive. So,
I can never get the acronym right, so
yeah, TWECL, yeah. So yeah, it's actually just been updated today as well for the qualification for Hungary as well. So I'm quite happily sitting in 2nd for that, and Tom is sitting in 3rd currently. So it's looking good
for
Hungary. So yeah, I've just overtaken you,
take
Tom.
my foot off the gas then.
Well, there's a few tournaments between now and the end of the year, isn't there? But yeah, there's an awful lot of coaches on there now. Yeah, so
Yeah, certainly sound like the qualification process certainly sounds like the most intricate of the teams that have brought it up so far. Like there have been like there's been sort of waning amounts of like how much the captain of the team like how he's chosen and like how much power he has in like assembling his. Certainly sounds like a very sort of thorough method of like, and it takes a lot of things into account, like from the sounds of it, like how the Welsh team is doing it.
Yeah, and it's one of those where it's probably not perfect, and there's going to be a review. I think that the senior players, well, we'll bring everybody's opinion into perspective, but it's better than no system, which is what we had, in the olden days. At least it gives a clear guideline. It promotes winning, um, and the top 3 tables do give us that little bit of continuity in the team as well.
yeah,
And then
I think it was felt that if you're going to a EuroBowl for the first time, you could potentially, if you just went with the 8 best players, you could potentially have 8 coaches going to EuroBowl who had never been before, and you won't have had, which I suppose is what happened at the first one. But once it's established, actually having that continuity, and we always have a review. There's an annual review, which is going to be happening in due course. We do it after the previous EuroBowl, so. And we have actually been having 2 different types of qualification process being looked at this past 12 months, to look at whether we want to use the old system, which I've already explained, or a system where you actually process your best results against players that have higher team ratings. So to take into account the quality of the players that you're playing rather than the quantity. So but like Tom said, there's no perfect way. So this is what we currently have.
Yeah, and I mean it is always good to like keep your eye on improving the system. Doubtful that any system will ever be like, truly perfect, but like honing it and changing it to adapt to the times is always good.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. With that said, shall we take a look at the people who have made it on for this year? And
Absolutely.
several names here that I personally recognize and have met previously. But we'll start at the top of the list, shall we? 20 Phoenix.
Yeah.
Representing the Shambling
Yeah.
Undead.
Yeah. So 20 Phoenix is a very, very, very capable player. Um, he's one of those that can, in my view, beat anybody on his day. Although I'll be honest, I'm biased and think that of everybody on the team, but
Mm.
G is really top quality, and this was a little bit of a push from me. He didn't really want to play undead. I'll be honest,
Mm.
but in the time since the previous Eurobowl, nothing really stuck for him. So I was originally in the first draft of the team going to be on the undead myself,
Mm.
and I just made the call to hand it back to him. So
Well,
it's
I
in
think
safe hands.
he was gonna play. He was the Underworld coach at
Mm.
Leicester. So,
Mhm.
like a lot of the other teams, Underworld have been removed from their racial picks. So, 20 Phoenix was going to take Underworld, and Tom was going to take Undead.
Yeah.
Um, uh, but with the changes, 20 Phoenix just didn't think Underworld were as viable as they once were. So
Uh, oh,
that was the change. So yeah, 20 Phoenix's Undead rating is 211. So he's incredibly competent
mm.
with them. So
Yeah.
And to be honest, it probably would be higher if he hadn't taken 12 months off them. But it's one of those things. Obviously, looking at the skills, um, it's probably not something that it will surprise anyone.
It seems fairly standard. I do like the like I've seen like there's been plenty of undead rosters that we've taken a look so far. Some of them have had 2 guards on the mummies, some of them have had no skills on the mummies. Some of them have gone double guard on the blitzers as well. I think like the last undead roster that we looked at for the ghouls, it was 1 block and 2 wrestle instead. So there have been like slight variations, but like generally the core of the team has remained fairly the same. But undead are like that in
Yeah,
that like they are a solid team regardless. And but
I
yeah.
guess that depends if you take tackle or not. If you have tackle, if you have a tackle piece, then
Mm.
one wrestle piece is probably sufficient.
Mm.
If you choose to take a guard instead, then perhaps you do take 2 wrestle just to give you a little bit more reaction. But yeah, I'm sure they're all pretty much the same combination of the same skills, isn't it? Guard, tackle, block, wrestle, somewhere in there.
Um, the strip ball on a ghoul has made its appearance as well,
Oh, fair, yeah, lovely,
and
lovely.
and there have been like, but yeah, it has been fairly.
I think the wrestle versus the strip ball, the wrestle actually provides the ghoul with that bit more protection
I agree. Like.
versus the strip
Hmm.
ball. It's perhaps not.
If you're gonna send a strip ball ghoul in somewhere, then he's probably gonna have a bad time the turn after. But I don't want to talk on that without knowing who the coaches has taken it. It
Mm-hmm.
could be a surprise package. It could be someone far better than me. So
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Yeah.
All right, I don't mind criticizing. No, I mean, I'm rubbish with undead. I cannot play undead. I
Mm.
just can't get my head around them, and I should be able to play with them. I've played enough Blood Bowl, but just never really seems to stick. And if you want someone to 20 Phoenix and undead, you're almost guaranteed a draw.
Mm.
Um, at the very worst, his positional play is brilliant. He doesn't give anything away.
Mm.
He's a methodical thinker. He's usually the last player on the team to finish.
Mm.
It's probably fair
Yeah,
to say that as well. But
yeah.
he takes his time. But yeah,
I know it's stupid to say, but every team will have a player that is the player that's last to finish, obviously. But every team has that player that is always the last to finish, and
Mm.
G is the one for us.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Nothing wrong with being like thorough and methodical. Like and like undead is definitely one of those teams that I feel like requires like that sort of thinking because of the like more limited mobility that the team has with zombies and the mummies especially being 2 big pieces that if they get when they get tagged they're generally not getting away with. But yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
has 20 Phoenix been like in the whale squad before?
Yeah. Many times. He was
Yes, yeah.
captain in
Yeah.
Malta, wasn't he?
He was captain in Malta, and he qualified through being one of the top 3 players,
Mm-mm.
as we sort of described earlier.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's been around a few years now, and rightfully so.
Mm. All right. Well, here's another name that many a Blood Bowl enthusiast is certainly aware of. I feel Andy Davo with Necromantic Horror.
Yeah, he's rubbish. Don't want to talk about him.
Yeah, we thought we'd give him a run out. Yeah, I mean he needs no introduction, does he really? In my opinion, the best player in the world. And we're just
Oh,
delighted to have him with us, really.
there's a couple of coaches that might have a say on that. I
Yeah.
think he's ranked 3rd in the world at the moment, with
But I don't
Necromantic.
care. You know, the table lies.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, Necro is his best race. His ranking is 276 with Necro. So
I mean, he's
very,
absolutely rocketed up with
Mm.
yeah.
with that Necro
Mm.
rating. He really has.
He beat me at the
You know,
NAF Championship this year, in the 5th round, the
Mm.
Swine, to prevent my chance of going on to huge success. He finished runner-up in the end,
Yeah.
on countback,
yeah,
after a draw in
yeah.
the 6th round. But I mean, his Necro record, 65 games, he's only lost 9 times with them,
Mm.
40 and 47 wins. His
Damn.
win ratio is 79%.
Ugh.
It's world class. He is a truly, oh God, he's gonna
He is,
record this
for
and play
me.
it
He is
back
number
to me.
one.
Mm.
To be honest with you, I think he's number one. I think he'll just absolutely churn through top coaches. You
Mm.
know, Um, that's why he's managed to boost his rating with Necromantic so quickly. It's not just because how many wins he's accumulated, as Gav mentioned there, but it's the standard of the coach that he'll just throw aside every time.
Mm.
Now, obviously, he didn't manage to beat me the last time out. He could only draw against me, but that's another level altogether, isn't it?
Mm. Mm. Mm.
He is currently top of both our qualification systems, so it doesn't matter about the quantity or quality conversation with Andy. He is so far ahead of everybody else.
Mm.
He's nearly done enough to qualify for the next EUROBOWL and the one after that, in my opinion. It's just so good. Oh God, I hate saying nice things about him. I'd much rather sit opposite him and criticize him, but
Yeah.
he's a bit good. Let's have a look
That's
at his
why you're
roster.
only vice captain.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, there,
no
there, there.
surprises on his roster.
I mean, I do think that Andy Davo he probably does better when there is somebody who's like tugging him like a little bit from behind on the shirt, like just don't get too far up in the clouds now, laddie. I do
No,
think that.
he's not particularly like that, and
Mm.
we all like to tease him when he drops points, and we all
Mm.
like to tease him when, like at the Tackle Zone Trophy this year at the games at the UK Games Expo. Wales sent a team to that. So did the Scots, and the rest of the teams were club teams.
Mm. Mm.
We played the Scots in the first half, in the first round, and that game actually decided who won the tournament because we won it and Scotland were actually second.
Damn.
But Andy at that actually only won 1 game, drew 3, and lost 1, which was the same record as a couple of other people. And he didn't like the fact that he'd not had a great tournament. He was playing Dark Elves then, though,
Mm.
which used to be his best race.
Yeah.
But they're just a meager 225 ranking, so it's not quite as good as his next. They're only his third
Yeah.
best. They're only his third best race after Tackle Zone Trophy. But we did enjoy upsetting him and talking him through where it all went wrong. It's quite enjoyable to tease him when he doesn't do so well. But he is. He's a very good. He's like Tom says. Tom thinks he's the best in the world. I think Core and Oliver Dulac may have something to say about that. But he's certainly you're certainly talking about him in that class.
Yeah.
He's very good.
Um. His Necro team does look fairly what I would call traditional in it.
Yeah.
Two guards on the race, 2 guards
Yeah.
on the golems, the goal runner with the block for
Yeah.
the ball carrying, and then 2.
This is
Absolutely. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, I played Purple Goo at the Home Nations
Mm.
with a very, very similar skill pack to this,
Mm.
from what I can recollect. And those 4 guard, 2 on stand firm, 2 on sidesteppers, is
Yeah.
an absolute nightmare
No.
for any elf team, because, and obviously it makes it very easy to stop 1-turn options as well, unless you've got Skaven with Juggernaut.
Mm-mm.
But I mean,
Yeah.
it's so
Yeah.
hard. That's there's a question about, again, do you want to fit in a wrestle or a tackle? But you're aiming to win the game 2-1 most of the time, aren't you?
Yeah.
There's not any skills there to pop the ball. But I suppose the werewolves do have frenzy, which is, a lot of people consider the poor man's tackle, because if you
Yeah.
don't get them the first time, you get them the second time. But yeah, I mean, the roster almost picks itself in this skill pack. I can't
Yeah, and
remember.
obviously with necromantic, what's important is just that little extra cash that enables you to get the 3 rerolls.
Yeah.
Just because of it, the flesh golems are guarded, so they may 1 in 9 now and then, and that's sort of covered.
I'm glad you remember that. I can't remember where our blessings went, other than that I had one. So yeah,
Mm.
the
I
necro
mean,
have a blessing.
the extra money is kind of easy to remember when like the total down here at the bottom of the roster.
Yeah,
But
I've got that off screen at the moment. Oh yeah, it's on there, isn't it? Yeah,
yeah,
the 1.2. Yeah.
yeah. But it like there was, I believe, like one necromantic team where like so far that has preferred getting blocks on the golems rather than the guard. And I'm not overly convinced by that myself. And I mean the rates are essentially like you put guard on them and they're done as a player. It is just they come with the requisite skills with like block, sidestep, and foul appearance, just in case it makes a difference. So
Sure. It may be. I don't know if that player has the cash blessing,
mm,
or maybe they're used to playing with necromantic in lower TV tournaments, and they've typically taken block there.
mm,
I think the key to maybe just feeling that safety of being able to take your flesh golems without block is having that 3rd reroll.
yeah,
Yeah. Also at the Home Nations, I played Perdindas, the Scottish captain.
mm,
He also had Necro Horror, and he had blocked his golems rather than guarded them.
mm,
And playing with the elves, I felt much more comfortable against block golems, because I
yeah,
just avoid them. And then they move up to a space, but they're not affecting the game. They're just a piece. They're not dominating the area with the guard, whereas the guard in the middle, then you can use the zombies to do 2 dice blocks instead.
yeah,
So yeah, I mean, not something that I was particularly. I think this roster is stronger of the two. There is the argument, as Tom said, if they've not got the extra cash and they've only got 2 rerolls, you're worried more about the 1 in 9s.
yeah,
So yeah, perhaps that is the reason for that. But playing against both of them, I
mm,
found this race, this roster build, slightly more difficult to play against. Obviously, I think even Purdendas would say, Purple Goo and he, Purple Goo is an amazing coach as well.
mm,
Purdendas isn't, I don't think, quite on that level, but he's a pretty decent player as well. But from the roster point of view, it was much more difficult trying to scratch my head, working out how I'm going to get through. And I don't even think I managed to get many players into Purple Goo's half with these guarders. It was just there's unless you can get an early removal, maybe you can get lucky and get a 1 die block against the Wraith and remove it.
yeah,
Perhaps you
yeah,
might get lucky, and the same on the Wolves, but that needs to happen early. Otherwise, they're just going to stall your offense, and they're just going to stop you. It'll either be a 1-0 or a 2-1 that they're looking for. So
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
All right, but yeah, I think we've been fairly thorough in our praise of Andy Davo, and we're
Yeah, in
gonna be.
short, he's rubbish, and that's all everyone needs to know.
Yeah, and we're gonna be moving on to the next one. Though I have been informed that there has been a little bit of a shuffle in who is playing like in the coach list due to unforeseen
Right. Yeah.
circumstances. So it is not actually Dionysian who will be playing the Amazon. It is the captain himself, No Number.
It is. It is my job now to take the Amazons,
Yep.
which I wasn't going to do, but I am more than happy to do so.
Mm.
No pressure.
There have been a
Well,
lot of
yeah.
expectations placed on Amazons to do well in the tournaments. Certainly one of the more you're
Yeah,
expected
I mean,
to
they're just a
perform.
generically good team, aren't they?
Mm,
With the skill availability,
mm,
the blessing. It's worth noting, and this has been ratified by the EuroBowl organization.
mm.
The roster is missing the keg, which has now been
Yeah,
added.
yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I was
that
wondering though.
just point that out.
Yep. All right. So
Yeah.
there is a no Apo though.
No, I've gone for the keg instead of
Yeah.
the apple. That was my call,
Yeah.
which I prefer.
Okay.
Yeah, so actually, this isn't my roster. So
Yeah.
this is the roster that Dio submitted.
Yeah.
I generally don't guard the blockers. I do take block on them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but I know that I'm in the minority there big time.
Yeah.
So don't get me wrong on that. Uh, but I've had some practice with this way round, and it just completely changes where the blockers go.
Mm.
Really,
Mm.
they're sort of out front rather than carrying the ball. And yeah, it's a really interesting game with the Amazons. It's always a tough one
Mm.
to manage for the opponent, just because obviously not everybody is going to have block and tackle everywhere. So
Yeah.
if you're hitting a line woman with a
Mm.
regular zombie,
Mm.
as far as that zombie's concerned, it's a blodger, isn't it?
Yeah.
So
It is worth noting that Amazon is actually no numbers best race, and he's never lost with them, so no pressure.
Oof. Ooh. That's a. All right.
He's got a win ratio of 84% with Amazons, so no pressure, Tom. We'll be
Mm.
looking to you to lead
yeah,
from the
I mean,
front.
it's not a massive pool of games. I can't remember how many games it is. From like
19, I think.
I don't know, 19 games, but
Mm. Decent amount.
yeah, they're good. I enjoy playing them. So more than happy. I was going to be on the Wood Elves, as you can see down the list
Mm.
there,
Mm.
but I felt it was that was a decision that I made, and I spoke to them when we had the drop.
Mm.
If we can get a replacement player, is it acceptable for me to shift onto the Amazons? No change in the roster,
Yeah.
because I felt the Wood Elves would be a better pick for someone to come in from one of our reserve teams
Mm.
and
Mm.
take up.
Um. A little. I am gonna little. Like if you could switch around the roster, like the skills, would you make any changes? Like you mentioned the block on the blockers rather than the guard, but is it otherwise like what you would want?
Uh, I'm. It's weird. I'm more than happy to work with this, because
Mm.
obviously you got to factor in with the skill blessing. You can't repeat them more than three
Mm.
times, can
Mm.
you? As
Mm.
well. So there is that sort of take into account.
Yeah.
I can't remember how the cash works out. I've got to be honest with you. I don't have the spreadsheet up and stuff, but
We
maybe I would have.
can and yeah, we can take a look at the squad blessings real fast. So there's the allow stacking. Then there's the Hermes one, which is the 30,000 per unused skill point up to 1,200 extra
Oh yeah,
money
no, no,
one.
no. Sorry, sorry. To clarify,
Ah,
I'm happy with the blessing
yeah.
package. I'm just thinking about what skills I would have hypothetically
Ah,
switched
right.
round, and I I think probably it works out fairly decently. I mean, you could with the cash, maybe I wouldn't bother with the leader. That would be another wrestle or
Mm,
something. Um, the way it's worked out is fine, really. I mean, probably everybody sitting here that's a relatively competent Blood Bowl player knows that Amazons are such a good team. You can be slightly off of optimal and still do just fine.
yeah.
So yeah, and as I said, it just changed a little bit of way that I mean the way that they operate. Really,
Mm,
the way that the two blockers operate. That's the only thing. I'm perfectly comfortable with switching it up.
mm. Yeah. I do personally myself like for the line woman specifically. I think I prefer wrestle over block. And I'd probably keep blitzers like both blocked up. So essentially move up a block to the blitzer here, and then change one of the blocks potentially to wrestle. Or if you want to have one like
Mm.
blodging line woman, like those might be my personal changes, but like it is like those are sort of very minor sort of that come down a lot to your your coach's like personal play style, personal preference, I think.
Sure. Yeah, yeah.
All right. Well, good luck to you. I hope to see you
Thank
continue
you.
that amazing win rate on the Amazons.
Yeah, we'll try not to crash it.
All right. Moving on, we have Dr. Hellboy for Orcs.
Mm.
And I mean, it's an orc roster, and it looks about as expected. Like it is looking super solid.
I mean, no one's going to look at that and be surprised, are they?
Yeah.
It's the Andy Davo build. The only bit you pick from the block, guard
Mm.
standard, and then it's between tackle, mighty blow, and frenzy.
Mm.
It's whatever floats your boat in that one. It's the Andy Davo roster.
Mm.
No troll. Um,
Oh.
Genuinely, I think orcs are so efficient. I think
Yeah.
any half decent coach can play with orcs and get results with them.
It's worth just having a moment to talk about Dr. Hellboy Stephen. I think he's a terrific coach. To be perfectly honest, he's one of
Mm.
my captain picks.
Mm.
He's I think he's got a definitely a potential to win things, to win more things than he already has.
Mm.
His progression and his results as a Blood Bowl player. They probably took a backseat to the small matter of him finishing his PhD.
Mm. Mm.
So he had to get that, prioritized, I suppose. And I think I'm really excited to see him up there with us, and as our Orc coach. I really am.
Mm.
Yeah, one of the things I remember in Malta, I was room sharing with uh, Hawker. Kelt now is his NAF name is, but
Mm.
Hawker's not in the team this year. He's in the Open with a few other regular EuroBowl players, and we're hoping that they're going to get a really good result.
Mm.
Um, but one of the things that in Malta we were talking about is how we can improve, the Welsh coaching list, and what we were looking at when we're comparing us to the really big teams, the Frances, the Spains, the
Mm.
English,
England. Yeah.
yeah, all those top teams that have won multiple Eurobowls. Let's not forget the Italians as well,
Mm.
and
Mm.
shout out to the reigning champs Denmark.
Mm.
And looking for coaches that have win ratios over 65% is what we were lacking.
Mm.
And the win ratings, and certainly over the last 12 months, if you look at the win ratings of the coaches that we've selected in this team,
Mm.
they're all there or thereabouts now. So this is a very strong team from a point of view of win percentages and win ratios. And Stephen, like no number said, he's competent. He does like his slam. He does like his Amazon as well, doesn't
Mm.
he? I think he would have loved to
Slan,
have
I have
brought.
to admit, were a little bit my fault, because earlier on in the year I did ask Stephen to practice Slan because that was going to be one of my wildcard picks. But
Mm.
once the Orcs became available again, I thought it was probably wiser to make sure we've got an Orc coach. And yeah, Stephen was happy to take them.
Yeah, and Stephen's win ratio is 60%. So yeah, he's come great guns, and funnily enough, his slam win rate is 75%. So
Okay.
very
Yeah,
good.
maybe I should have stuck to the plan.
I mean,
He hasn't played many games with Orcs, but he's an incredibly competent coach,
Mm.
and will get results for us. And
Yeah.
you know,
Orcs are very
I think
much
he's a
one of
terrific player. Yeah.
Orcs are
yeah,
one of very much one of those teams that you can you can rely on them to perform consistently, like throughout the tournament, like regardless of opponent, like pretty much is it because of like
Absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, it's one of those, isn't it, where it doesn't matter if you're, at any level of Eurobowl coach. If you go to a local tournament with, I don't know, 20 people in a room, and you just come up against an Orc team that's reasonably built against a guy who's a competent Blood Bowl player,
Hmm.
it's always a game,
Yeah.
just because they're such a solid team.
Yeah.
yeah.
Very much so. There is the Swedish team is also bringing an orc team along, but they elected to go for a little bit of a fouling route, having a dirty player lineman in roster rather than like mostly standard, but deviating a little bit. And I feel that it's like I can see the merits of that certainly, but
And they've got a bribe in that roster as well, haven't
yeah,
they? As I
I
recollect,
do
yeah.
believe they do, yeah.
I think if you're going to go that route, which is atypical, you need to have that idea quite early in the Euro Bowl cycle, and then really get your head around practicing it, because they do that. This is Sweden you're talking about,
Yep,
yeah?
yep,
Yeah, they do. I think they do the same with their Norse team as well, don't they? They foul with their Norse
yep,
and really
yeah,
push the fouls.
and they are also not that convinced of the necessity of bringing a Yeti along.
Yes, I did. I did see that. Yeah, I mean, I guess if you want to come along and just take the joy out of Blood Bowl, you just foul your way through it, don't you? Love you, Sweden.
I have a feeling that a lot of the people who do like fouling enjoy it quite a lot. Like I'll be
Yeah,
honest. Like most of the time
I,
when I've taken the boot, they have had a grin on their face.
yeah. One of the I've seen it played efficiently. The fouling Norse
Mm,
specifically.
mm,
I've come at the end of a very nasty match against a very deep Norse roster with fouling.
Yeah,
It was horrendous.
yeah.
Especially when
I had the same thing against Team England.
yeah.
Perhaps in Portugal. I can't remember which EuroBowl it was, but yeah, I had I came across the deep Norse bench. But yeah, it's one of those, isn't it? If you're going to build the fouling roster, then that's what you're leaning into.
yep,
You are sacrificing the mechanical skills like guard and block, and tackle to do that. So you've got to make sure that you lean into it, and you'll get the games where it doesn't do anything. You'll get the games where it gets sent off first foul.
yep,
You know.
Yeah, you'll roll the one, and then your dirty player's gone. And
yep.
Yeah.
yeah, that can happen. Yeah,
All
yeah.
right. Then we have this little known chap called G Coleman 76 playing High Elves as our next roster. That what can you tell me about him as a coach?
He's rubbish. He's absolutely hopeless.
Well, I might as well let you explain, since this is your obviously.
Uh,
Well, the one thing I will say is obviously a very, very high standard of high elf player,
Mm,
which not everybody has. You know, some nations are just blessed to have a player that is particularly good in one. I'm not saying that this is the only the only team that Gav can play, but
mm,
that excels, shall we say,
mm.
in something that's slightly off branch, and that's really cool.
Yeah, and I mean, I will interject here, and this is, I believe, the first high elf roster that we have seen so far of any of the teams that we looked at. So, does not seem like a
There you
very
go.
very popular pick. So I'm looking forward to hearing how G Coleman can prove the world wrong about like not including high elves in.
Most people, when they take high elves, tend to spam the dodge
Yeah,
on the catches.
yeah,
I haven't done that because I've got 3 rerolls
mm,
and leader.
mm,
Um, you're not going to roll that many ones, I
mm,
hope. Um, yeah, this is a roster that's I've used a lot. The first 5 skills pick themselves. The 3 wrestle, the 2
yep,
dodge blitzers are automatic picks,
yep,
and I always take the 2 throwers as well. And leader's almost an auto pick as well. And once you get past those 6 skills, it's whatever floats my boat on the day.
mm,
I think kick. I really like kick. A lot of people don't like kick. I've avoided taking the double here as well. A lot of people would have liked to have seen some guard. Well, I'm
yeah,
not terribly good at protecting my guard players,
mm,
and so I'm very good at protecting my positionals. But if you're given a lineman guard,
mm,
um, more difficult to protect because you need to use the lineman to protect your positionals. But
yeah,
it's very, very rare that I lose positional players. Although when I played Rick Reckless at the Home Nations, he had a very nasty tackle, mighty blow, imperial nobility blocker
mm,
who went round causing all sorts of problems and removed an elf blitzer at the start of the match. It was horrendous, that game. It was the only other game other than Purple Gear that I lost at the Home Nations this year. It was not great. Um, but yeah, I mean, I've played High Elves a little bit. I've played 106 tabletop matches with them.
mm,
Yeah, Skaven are my second highest played race of 70, and that was what I played in Cardiff the first time I played for Wales, and then I had to work on Gareth 20 Phoenix to allow me to take high elves to Malta because I just felt I personally feel, and when I'm playing high elves or Skaven, if you want me to get a draw, if you need me to hold a game, I'm going to find that easier to do with high elves than I will with Skaven. That's just a personal thing.
Yeah.
I just am more comfortable playing with the high elves than I am with the Skaven. I'm not afraid of going for some quite outrageous ball sackings quite early in the game if I have to. I'm not worried about that. But if the drive isn't going so well when I'm defending, and with high elves, you're going to score. You're going to score. You don't need the dodge. You're going to find a way to score generally.
Yeah.
Unless you play against purple who are reckless, as it turns out. But it's you win these games on defense. You need to be able to sack the ball carrier, and having 3 players with movement 8 and wrestle, that lends itself to being able to get to the ball carrier at some point. You use your linemen to clog up their players that they want to be protecting. You know, sacrifice a high off lineman to a guard flesh golem is quite pleasant, and hold them there, especially if it's late in the half. Kick for the deep kick. The only skill I was umming and ahhing about was what to do with my extra pick, because I've got an extra skill on this roster in comparison. And I went through a few iterations. The high off lineman with block is the extra skill. But that's moot because normally I give the second high elf thrower block, and I didn't really fancy just giving a high elf lineman dodge. I didn't think it was worth it. So actually having that high elf lineman with block allows him to be a pseudo blitzer should anything happen to one of the other blitzers, and hope he can dodge, make his dodges. But yeah, I've been fairly successful with high elves. I've used them at the UK Team Championship twice. The last 2 times, in fact. The one before last, I was on the winning team, and this year I was on the runners-up. And this year at UKTC, I had a record of 5 wins and 1 loss, and we finished runners-up. Team Wales did at the UKTC. So yeah, I mean, they've been a successful race for me, and taking them to Malta last time, I finished as an auto qualifier, which I hadn't managed with the Skaven, even though I was able to have almost the identical record. I went 3-0-3 in Cardiff, and in Malta I went 2-2-2. But 2 draws means you're contributing to 4 rounds. Versus because you're giving that half a point, and I only actually had 2 losses in Malta in comparison to 3 losses in Cardiff.
Right.
Even I had more wins with the Skaven. So it's about contributing to your team. It's not always in team play. It's not necessarily about winning the game. It's about not losing. The not losing is the more important thing. So having a team that you can lock down and say, actually, I'm happy with the draw here, I'm not really going to go for it. I felt that I was more able to do that with high elves, even though on offense they're perhaps not as efficient as Skaven, because Skaven it's much easier to do the 1 turn option if you need to. So it's a personal preference. I'm just more comfortable. My win percentages with high elves and Skaven are actually very similar. I've got 66% win rate with high elves and 67% win rate with Skaven. So it's just a feeling within myself what I'm more comfortable with, and that's.
It's also one of those things. I think it's worth just sort of taking a mini segue here and remembering, because part of the decision making of putting Gav on high elves not only is his competency with the team, but also this is a holiday. This is a very expensive holiday that we're going to play a board game, and the key thing to it is to enjoy it. And if Gav's going to be happier, we want to be competitive, of course we do. We want to win the EuroBowl, of course we do. But we're taking time out of our lives, our jobs, our families to take a trip. Let's enjoy it as well, shall we? And Gav was going to enjoy the high elves more. It's as simple as that.
I did actually say to Tom, I said, like, look, if you need me to take Skaven, because everybody was like, take Skaven,
Yeah,
take Skaven.
yeah,
Every race, it's almost an auto pick. And we even had this conversation when we were choosing races.
yeah,
And in the end, I did go to Tom and said, I'm happy to take the Skaven if that's what the team feel. And
yeah,
Tom just went, no, you're taking High Elves. And that was it. That
yeah.
was the whole conversation. It was done. So
Yeah.
thank you, Tom. I get my favorite race.
Well, there we are.
Yeah, no,
I expect big things.
Oh, God, pressure.
yeah, no, Andy Davo, like, I did ask him for a comment when he was streaming previously about, like, his thoughts on the upcoming EuroBowl, and he very much echoed the same sentiment that, like, he's obviously going there with a competitive mindset, but it is, in his mind, it was imperative that, like, the community and the enjoyment of the entire thing was more important to him than, like, actually, like, winning the entire thing. So, like,
Yeah,
very
yeah,
good to hear that, like, it seems to be something that is echoed in the rest of the team as well. Like, and it is,
absolutely.
I feel that is the sort of correct way to have your head around things, because at the end of
Yeah.
the day, it is still like a hobby that this is, like, we're doing this on free
Mm,
time. It's not like we're
exactly.
professionals here. So
I guess it's just as
I
well I
think
didn't
that's
say. I was going to say it's just as well I didn't say to Tom, do you know what? I really fancy playing goblins in the EuroBowl this year. I'm on holiday.
I mean, there's a line, isn't there? There's a line. It's my holiday too, Gav, so,
yeah.
Yeah,
um, but, yeah, I think that's something if anybody who's listening who's going over there, and if it doesn't go well for you, it could be us. If it doesn't go well for you, just try and, enjoy the weekend and remember where you are and that you're fortunate to be there,
Mm.
you know? It's easier said than done that when it's going wrong for you, but, if you ever need to walk away from the table, just do.
Yep. All right. But with that, very thorough explanation to the high elf pick here, we have our next coach on the list, Lerassian.
yeah. He's
Yeah,
changed his NAF name now, hasn't he?
yes. Yes, another NAF name change. He's now just Michael Jones
Mm,
because he preferred to not have the kind of anonymity of usernames, which is fine.
fair enough.
But yeah, same guy, and yeah, on the Dark Elves.
Michael Jones, taking up the double assassin lineup, 3 rerolls, block
Hmm.
wrestle witches, and 4 dodges. That is
This
Yeah,
is Laracian's first EuroBowl, isn't it, Tom? If I recollect.
yeah, yeah. So one of the sort of exciting aspects of our qualification system
mm,
is that it's brought new players through, and um, Michael Jones and Orkster are two of the guys that have. We're going to talk about Bertmack in a
yeah, yeah.
second as well, but these guys came through the quali table
Mm,
and earned their spot. It's as simple as that. So yeah, very very keen to see how they get on. Um, yeah, and
He's no
Dark Elf and
slouch for
Lizard
Dark
Men.
Elf at all.
Exactly. Yeah, that's
He's
right. Yeah,
he's 199 ranking,
mm,
65%
yeah.
win
Just
rate with Dark Elves, very, very competent with them.
no.
His overall win ratio, and like I was saying a little bit earlier, I was talking about that 60% mark.
Mm,
His win ratio across all his games is 67%. So he's definitely got some quality.
mm,
Very good with Dark Elves, 47 games.
mm,
He's only lost 9 times in those 47 games. So another strong player
yeah.
who doesn't lose many games with the race that he's taking. And like we've already talked about, it's about not losing those games rather than going out all out to win. It's actually assessing at half time in the EuroBowl setup. So what's the situation across the boards?
Yeah.
And between the high elves, the dark elves, and the wood elves, the likelihood is one of the 3 of us is going to get the shout out from the captain to say
Mm,
go for the win,
yeah. Yeah.
and it will depend on the situation of the game. So Dark Elves is certainly one of the team that's got the speed. I think he's gone for what's his build? He's gone the assassin route, hasn't he?
Yeah.
So
Double assassin to be found
yeah.
in.
So
Yeah.
again, 8 players with movement 7
Yeah.
is very fast, very very fast.
yeah, but it's increasing in popularity, that build, isn't it? I think.
I mean, I've heard, like, one way and the other, in that, like, there have been people who have said that, like, the double assassin is like has been the popular build for a while, and then, like, some people have moved off of it because of, like, but, like, a lot of people seem to think that, like, with like with teams like Vampires and Amazons going to be making themselves a staple, and Skaven as well. Like the double assassin, like you can get some real mileage out of the stab skill, in those
Yeah.
sorts of matchups. But I think I prefer to have a runner on a Dark Elf team when I'm playing the Dark Elf, just because I feel that like just having somebody who can at least somewhat pass, like if I needed to, like it just gives me just that one extra little bit of like tool, because in this like roster, right, the best you're gonna have is a 4+, and that's either the blitzers or the linemen, and then the witch elves and the assassin, they've got a 5+, and like at that point you're just praying to Nuffle to succeed, right?
Yeah, I mean, speaking, this is another good reason. Seeing
Mm.
this assassin build taking off, it's another good reason for taking high odds over Skaven,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
Yeah.
I am much happier playing against Dark Elf roster that doesn't have the runner,
Yeah.
personally. The runner, because I like to snipe and get those fast ball sacks, and
Yeah, the
the
dump
runner
off
just
is
dumps
really
stuff.
going to ruin your
Yeah,
day at that point. Yeah.
yeah, it really does. And having the option, they need to roll 9+ on
Mm.
the majority of my players, and they're not going to get near my
Mm.
catchers.
Yeah.
And shadowing, I guess the benefit against the heavier armored teams,
Yeah.
the shadowing against the dwarf runner,
Mm.
all right, it's only a 5+ to stop them from getting away, but
Yeah.
actually that can win you a game, the shadowing. So against some of the other teams, it's going to be useful. But like they said on the Swedish video,
Yeah.
the EuroBowl, you tend to see a lot more dash teams. You see a lot more agile teams,
Yeah.
low armor, and with I guess this roster is also a little bit left over from everything was happening with Underworlds.
Mm.
People were looking for a way to beat Underworlds,
Yeah.
so the assassins are good
Yeah.
against them.
Yeah,
Not that there's
absolutely.
many of those.
Yeah.
But yeah, Amazons, Wood Elves, Skaven are not going to like double assassins with shadowing. Even on a player that's faster than this rolled 6, and when it procs, it can end turns. When it happens, it's not that likely, but
Yeah.
and the fact that they are now moved to 7 makes them much
Yeah.
stronger than they once were. Although
Absolutely.
it does reduce the overall armor of the team, doesn't
Yeah.
it? So
We do have BertMac50, who I assume is going to be the Bertman that's coming up in the chat, and the first thing that he says is bollocks, and then corrects himself by saying ball sacks. So good to have you in the stream there, BertMac. Glad you could make it.
that sounds like Bert. That really does. Good evening, John. How are you?
Evening, John.
Yeah. No,
Ball sacks.
but yeah, no,
I will say this, just a final sort of thought on the
Mm.
Dark Elf roster. In about 20 years of playing Blood Bowl, I have not played one single NAF game with Dark Elves yet. They're still on our to-do list, so I will happily see to Michael Jones's decision on the double assassin build.
No. Fair enough. Well, the man of the hour, or the man of the couple of minutes at the very least, has appeared. So we have BertMac, who is going to be taking over the Wood Elf roster here. And I mean, for like immediately, sort of something different from every other Wood Elf team that I have seen so far. There is actually a skill on the Treeman.
Yeah,
you selected this roster,
so
didn't you?
this is my roster.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I got to be honest with you. I don't even know if it adds up. Does it add up? Did I take as many skills as I could have? I don't know. But
There's
this was
6 of them in there.
This is our captain, everyone.
Yeah.
This is brilliant.
It's on a serious note. It was put under a bit of time pressure, and I was
Yeah.
dealing with significant business issues at the same time as trying to submit these rosters. So
Mm.
I knew everyone else's was fine. It was mine that was the problem.
Yeah.
Sorry, John, but here we are. So this roster is not built to play Blood Bowl. This is built for 2 things.
Mm.
1, a withdrawn offense. 2, a 1-turn touchdown.
Mm.
That's it.
Yep.
So if something happens, some crazy thing like a blitz, or they spill a pickup and the kick's good,
Mm-hmm.
or for whatever reason, an international standard Blood Bowl coach leaves you a shot at the ball carrier, fine. But if not, this is the job of this team is to be as close to a guaranteed draw as humanly possible.
Yep.
with the potential to up that if it needs to.
Yeah. In that case, like that certainly explains. I was going to ask, in with like about the lack of the thrower on the, like with that mentality in mind. Yeah, it's gonna be the 4 catchers, and then the grab on the tree man also makes a lot of sense. Um.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
What
Um.
happens if you do need
exactly.
to
So
pass then, Tom?
I just do it on alignment. It's fine. Just roll a 4.
That's
uh.
for a quick pass, though.
Yeah, we have Bert Mac seemingly confident in the chat saying I'll cope. Um,
Burt
Yeah,
Mac's,
I'm sure he'll cope.
Burt Mac.
But John's done very. It was a funny thing actually because I approached John about stepping up. John was going to be captain of the European team
yeah.
for Wales. Fully deserves his chance in the main roster. And it was kind of a divine intervention that the day that I asked him to join us, he said, "I'll think about it." And the next day, the guys over in Wales had a one day tournament and he won it.
Mm,
So it was one of those little things that the nice little nudge that maybe destiny was on his side.
mm,
And yeah, I mean, look, he certainly one of those coaches that's come into the squad, performed very well,
mm,
and with this task in hand to be the Wood Elf coach that performs this role.
mm.
I mean, it's one of those, isn't it, where if you ask any semi-competent Blood Bowl coach, can you score in 8 turns on a ward answer? Probably they can.
yeah.
Um, you know, John is
Uh,
certainly a level of coach above that. So it's just when I say, look, this isn't designed to play Blood Bowl.
Mm,
Well, that's true, and it's not. It's designed to not need to play Blood Bowl. As we all know, Wood Elves can get up in your grill, whenever they want to. But as I said, its role was to have that draw almost guaranteed, and then see what happens from there.
yeah,
uh,
he won that tournament with halflings
yeah.
as
Yeah.
Fluffy
Yeah.
the
Fluffily
alien.
alien. Thank you for that tidbit. Like that just makes it even more impressive, and even
Yeah,
potentially even more of a divine intervention. Because like, who's ever heard of
exactly.
halflings doing that?
Well, he's got 100% win rate with halflings in those 3 games that he's ever played with them. So yeah, he's never
I'm sure.
ever he's never ever
I'm,
played
I'm
Wood
sure.
Elves.
I'm sure the
But
halflings had some help, but
Mm.
let's leave that. Winning is all I'm interested in, and
and
winning
and
is
and go
good.
and going back to the 60% mark that
Mm,
we were talking about earlier, Burt Mac's bang on 60% right now, so he's definitely in the running, you know, for future Blood Bowl, Wales EuroBowl teams as well. So,
mm,
and he did represent us in the home nations as well with his necromantic horror team, which
mm,
is his best race. So he's well rounded.
mm, mm,
Yeah, there's some discussion with some of the other senior players, um, and the no pressure, John, but the expectations are that John can um, potentially match the trajectory of like Jay Wood, who's not with us, fortunately this time around, but Jay Wood is one of the other players that would certainly be on this team if he was able to go.
mm.
That's come through the ranks, and
His
you know,
brother's getting married, so he couldn't get out of it.
yeah,
Yeah. That.
His,
yeah,
his brother doubled
again,
down on it by
priorities.
also made him the best man as well. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
doubled down on it to make sure.
But yeah, John certainly has all the capabilities to reach that level with us as well. So
Yeah. Right. Then we have, last but not least, we have Orkster, who is not playing orcs or black orcs. He's playing what looks to be a fairly um run of the mill, I would say, like lizard, with a chameleon skink, which is not something that you see in every lizardman roster.
yeah, yeah. Some people like him, some people don't.
No.
I
I
guess it
think
gives you the
in this rule set, I think for the money that you had, you could slot in that chameleon skink with the 2 reroll build. So I think it's pretty standard.
Yeah.
I think the interesting thing here is the 6 block, because there is a few rosters out there where they've given some Saurus Wrestle and a
Yeah.
couple that have gone with a guard option, didn't
Yeah.
they? So
There
um,
has been some tackle saurs as well. A lot of like there
Yeah.
have been like two of the Lizardmen teams that we've looked at the roster so far have also decided that rather than put the guard on a Saurus, have it on the Croxigore.
Yes, I've seen that as well. I think Sweden have done that, haven't they?
Yeah.
Yep, that is in
Yeah.
fact one of the Swedish things. It.
I think it's one of those things with Lizardman, isn't it? Is that this roster has I know Blood Bowl has changed
Mm,
in the past 20 years.
mm,
Um, but there's some aspects wherein it's not changed all that much.
mm,
And this is a roster that's won tournaments in the entire, span that I've been attending tournaments.
yeah.
So it's certainly not bad. I think if you were to put a tackle in there or a guard, you wouldn't be necessarily wrong.
Mm,
But if you just had to slap in a roster and you went, I don't know, 6 block Saurus, I
mm,
think you're absolutely fine.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, is his best race.
Mm,
He's got a win ratio with Lizards of 76%. Only
mm,
lost. It's a small pool of matches, but his overall win ratio is at 62.5%, which is pretty decent.
yep.
I think Owen Orkster uh, had a little inkling for vampires, though, didn't he, Tom? What was the discussion there?
There was no discussion.
Did he ask?
No, no. I made the decision early that I didn't want a vampire player on the team.
Mm,
For me, but this is a specific reason, and I'm a little bit spoiled because on the UK tournament scene at the moment, there's a little chap going around by the name of Torquemada who has absolutely mastered vampires.
mm,
If you check his NAF page, anyone that's listening wants to check Torquemada's match page and see how many games he's played with vampires and his current NAF rating with vampires. Um, I've seen what it takes to become truly proficient with vampires,
mm,
and I felt that for EuroBowl, for Owen's first time on the main roster,
mm,
um, Lizardmen, given that he was so proficient with them anyway,
mm,
was certainly the better pick of the two,
mm,
because this isn't to say that Owen can't get to Torquemada's level
mm,
with vampires,
mm,
but we're talking about basically the most competitive Blood Bowl event on the circuit, So
mm,
I made a decision. I think Vampires was one that also 20 Phoenix potentially was interested in the concept of.
mm,
But as I said, for me, Vampires are one that when you fully understand them, I would I would be happy to have them on the team.
mm.
I didn't feel like we had a player that fully has the Vampires on course yet. So
No, no.
Yeah, and when Tom's talking about the advantage of Torquemada plays in our store league.
Mm,
Tom and I, or Tom runs the store. Tom owns the store,
mm,
and we have a small league, a resurrection format league,
mm,
and Torquemada plays pretty much all of the tournaments. And I think he's probably gone to the most tournaments across the whole of the NAF this year.
mm,
Um, and Torquemada is currently ranked 4 in the world with vampires at 222. So
mm,
107 games experience, and these are conversations that Tom would have had about seeing that. I had the pleasure of playing Torquemada at the Welsh National this year,
mm,
and his ranking of 222 and mine of 221. It inevitably ended up in a draw, but it's so hard, and I lean into everything that Tom said. Orkster's won tournaments with vampires, but his best race, with looking at the percentages, etc., is with the lizards, and he's very competent
mm,
with them. So it's like we said right at the start. This is a oh, excuse me. This is a strong team,
mm,
and we're very lucky to have just in the last 2 years, because we had the World Cup between the last EuroBowl and this one,
mm,
to actually go from where we were to having a squad where we're ticking that, starting at the 60% and all the way up to Andy Davo level. We're in a very, very good position with
mm.
the coaches that we've got playing for us.
And I,
Um,
and I do want
yeah,
to like if this is like if this is his first time as the like on the main roster on a EuroBowl tournament, right? Like I would like if I was in the position of a team captain, I would probably want that sort of a player to be in like their comfort zone more than trying to like both like be in this new situation of like being in the highest echelon of play and then also be with a team that can be as fickle as a vampire team can be, and like
Yeah,
is as intricate.
Orkster was on our very successful Dragons team, which is the Welsh Euro Open
Mm.
team in Malta, and I think did they finish second or third, Tom? I can't remember off the top of my head. They were
I
certainly,
believe it was. I believe it was third, but I do
yeah,
apologise to the chaps if it was one higher than that. But yeah, certainly a great result anyway.
yeah. So he's been around, and I can't remember what race he took to that one. Yeah, very
But as you
winning.
rightly said there, though, you talk about EuroBowl. The last thing you want is to be. It's your first EuroBowl. You're failing bloodlust everywhere. Your thralls are getting killed with every time
Yeah,
they get hit.
yeah.
Um, for me, this is a no-brainer.
Yeah,
All right. I am I'm fully convinced by the argument.
I mean, again, if you put in the vampires there, where do you put the lizards? Because lizards, again, one of those teams that you're talking about as a must-have.
Mm.
Along with orcs, it's this is why you have captains, isn't it?
Yeah,
To
this
make those
is
tough calls.
no, no. But yeah, definitely. Interesting thinking. Like the most elves we so far in a full sort of roster of coaches. I
I think
doubt
that's
that.
to be expected, though. I mean, the dark elves are an auto pick, so
Mm,
and wood elves are there or thereabouts,
mm,
and the high elves are there or thereabouts. And if you're not going to take the Skaven, the likelihood of seeing the three elves, because what you do need in your racial picks
mm,
is teams that can go for that win
yeah,
in a pinch. If you're down and you need to convert a draw
mm,
to a win, you need those faster teams.
yeah,
Otherwise you're looking at perhaps the lizards pushing, but then you're pushing with skinks and the swords
yeah,
can't kick up. And the necromantic, you can push with the werewolves and the ghouls, but then the real value pieces there, the guarders, are
yeah.
not going to be found. Yeah,
One
and
one one thing, just a little bit of further, like along the decision making process.
Mm,
One of my earliest um, decisions that I wanted was to everybody have a team that has reactive potential.
mm,
This is, you feasibly talking about playing the best players.
mm,
Um, you always want to have the potential to be able to react. This is all going wrong. Let's just hand off to this guy and try
yeah,
and do a switch.
yeah,
It was only because Andy Davo very passionately, explained that orcs are basically a must-have that
yeah,
I relented and had the orcs on board because I wanted everybody to have at least a movement 7 piece in the team.
yeah,
It's only the orcs that don't have that.
yeah.
You know, thanks to Davo.
Uh, and I mean, Davo has certainly played his fair share of orc to know what he's talking about. No doubt about that.
Exactly. Yeah.
let's
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
let's not polish the ego anymore.
Yeah,
We've moved past that
yeah.
now.
Yeah. I
Best player in
mean,
the world.
I'm personally biased against orcs because but like personally like I play Imperial Nobility as my primary sort of like in Blood Bowl 2020 team, and yeah, orcs are a really tough matchup, and I do feel that they might need a just a little bit of kicking down and like boosting up some of the more unfortunate, shall we call that. But yeah, like in a tournament setting, like well, really in any setting, like an orc is just as a team is just such a strong, like stable, like a sort of rock that you can build around that, like the rest of the team. Um,
If
very
you if you if
understandable.
you basically if you had if you were taking a Eurobowl team
Mm,
and you had 7 out of your 8 players picked and you had to get some random person to play a team, you would probably give them orcs.
yeah,
To if you had some guy you've never met to come onto the team,
no,
you just be like, hey, play orcs.
yeah, very much, very much.
Yeah.
Right. With that, we're gonna be moving on to the discussion of like, well, you've been singing the high praises. You've been talking about how competitive, like how good all of the players are on the roster. So let's talk about what exactly it is that you're gonna be aiming for, like in the Euro Bowl. Like, my assumption is like for every team, unless they tell me otherwise, is that they're there to try and like win the thing because that is what a competitive tournament like at this level is generally about. But like, if we're talking
Yeah,
about what would you consider to be like a result that can be celebrated? Like,
I think unfortunately, Malta was a particularly bad tournament for us.
Mm.
It was bad not only for results, but we didn't feel we acquitted ourselves as well as we could generally as a team. Um, I think
I
as
remember
as
going into
the,
Malta because we'd finished fourth in Wales, and I remember thinking in Malta it was what I felt was the strongest team that we could put forward. I genuinely went into that thinking we could podium,
Mm.
and then it just
yeah,
went wrong. We
Mm.
lost to Denmark in the first round, who actually went on to win it,
Mm.
and we were losing games that I don't know, it just
it went wrong
very
in so many different
yeah
ways. It unraveled like bizarrely.
Mm.
You always in a team event you'll look down the road, you'll ask you guys how it's going, and there'll be some story. Oh my God, they rolled a blitz or
Mm.
a double sculled or that kind of. But that seemed to happen every game for every one of us. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that it was random chance, it was the
Mm.
dice, but I don't think that in any way, shape, or form anything went right
Mm.
for us. Uh, so I don't want to say better than that is a result to be celebrated because to be honest, I think that everybody on the team
Mm.
is capable of beating anybody.
Mm.
And so that if you've got that combination of people,
Mm.
then you should be aiming to win the competition,
Mm.
and that's our aim. Um, are we gonna be sad if we finish third and we've never podiumed before? No, of course not. But the aim is to win the whole thing. We've got the ability to do that.
Mm.
I'm sure there'll be some teams that have had to get people that they maybe freebooter players have never met or players that are still fairly inexperienced. We
Mm.
are not in that situation anymore.
Mm.
I could sit down myself against any one of these seven guys that I've got next to me and lose a game to them.
Mm.
So I think we have the ability to win, and that's the aim.
Yeah.
yeah. I think I would agree with that. I think I mean podium is where I think we should be aiming at the very least. I said this in Malta.
I'll correct my illustrious vice captain there. We will aim for a little higher than just podium,
Mm.
but if we finish on the podium,
We'll
You're
be
not gonna
we
be
happy.
won't.
sad.
We probably won't cry about it. Yeah,
Yeah,
I think. Yeah, this is a situation for me where people are probably looking at Wales and they'll look at many other nations. By no means we've got Belgium in the first round.
Mm.
We're going to take those guys lightly. Very
Mm.
experienced players in there.
Mm.
Uh, People are going to say the same thing. Oh, France look good. England look good. Spain look good.
Mhm.
We're probably not one of the nations that people are going to say, "Wow, look at their coach ratings," because
Mm.
we've got some new guys in there.
Mm.
Like I said, just take Dr. Hellboy for an example.
Mm.
Not one of his NAF rankings is as high as it should be. He's a quality of player that is entirely above what you'll see in the numbers.
Mm.
So we definitely have the ability. I don't think there's any question about that.
Right, and I mean that is a very great segue that you've given me over to because the last thing that we're gonna be taking a longer talk about is yeah, you're gonna be facing off against Belgium in the first round, um, and
Yep.
look at their team, what comes up. Uh, so look just by looking at the actual listed like races here, very different to a lot of the other rosters that we. Though we are going to start with one of the staples, the Great MC, who will be playing as an Amazon, and it looks very like obviously you have the Babe rather than the Apothecary, and he's got like 3 wrestle on the line woman, and then he's got block on both of the blitzers. So
Yeah. So
some
you,
some
you, you
some
did ask me. You,
modifications.
you did ask me earlier
Yeah,
if I'd have submitted the roster, what would it look like? And
yeah,
it probably would be something along those lines.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's I mean, again, not really. Like it's not really a crazy roster, shall we say, for an Amazon team. It's one of those where like I personally like the block on the thrower is that like in my mind the thrower is the last person on the team that I want to be in a position where they either need to block or be blocked. But I also understand it
Yeah.
in the case of like, well, the thrower is probably going to be the guy in the backfield who's going to be like in charge of handling the ball when it's kicked, right? So it's going to be like just in case like somebody gets through, circumnavigates, to have that extra
Yeah,
bit of
I mean, it could be that the thrower's the carrier,
mm, mm,
and fair enough. That's absolutely fine. I mean, you look at
I quite
I was just
like
talking about.
I quite like what you've got on your Amazon roster with the Wrestle Blitzer because
mm,
that synergizes really nicely with the jump up skill.
yeah,
Um,
Typically, I
because
take wrestle on both my blitzers.
yeah, I quite like that.
Typically,
And I think that's where the wrestle pieces should be. I think with the jump up, it just synergizes that bit better. You don't need to leave them in difficult positions because they've got the hit and run as well. So you
mm,
get that 3 point of move. You know, I prefer that. This team, this Amazon team, is playing against 20 Phoenix's Undead. So
mm,
um, the mummies. It depends if they get some nice removals on the line. If you can get the numbers, 20 Phoenix will play a secure game. It will cage up. Um, his mummies can deal with the Jaguar warriors, although they'll be able to dodge away. Um, yeah, it's good. It's a tight matchup, that one, but I do fancy this racial matchup is pretty tight, this one. But we trust in 20
I think it's
Phoenix.
going to be a great game. This,
yeah,
yeah. I mean, you look at the great MC,
mm,
very experienced player. You know, great rankings. I know. I was just saying sometimes the rankings lie
mm,
on the NAF page. Sometimes they don't.
mm,
Um, but yeah, I think this will be a top game.
yeah. I would personally like, just because like I have played Undead a fair bit, and like to me like just because of the mass dodge, I would probably give like a slight advantage to the Amazon. But again, like Undead are one of those teams that can be sort of like, if you give them like a baseline expectation of doing like decently in a game, they will always deliver. Like unless something catastrophic
Yeah,
happens, so it's a small advantage,
yeah,
but I'd
exactly.
probably give it to the um. But yeah,
A deep roster, isn't it?
yeah,
It's a 14-man roster with
Yeah,
an Apo
yeah,
as
yeah,
well.
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, that's a tight old matchup, that one.
um. Then we have Rago, I believe, with another staple. We have the Lizardmen, and this is almost the
Mhm.
exact roster as on your team, but there is the guard on the Saurus blocker instead of the sixth block, and like, if he was going up against another Lizardman team, I think the guard might be like a decisive difference in that
Playing the
matchup.
So
Orcs. This one's against Hellboy's Orcs, so
Mm,
they've got 4 guard.
yeah,
So that's going to be a bash off,
yeah,
and then the Blitzers can take care of the Skinks, I guess.
yeah,
Um, yeah, because the Orcs have got 3 guard,
yeah.
4 strength, 4 pieces.
Yeah, it is
And
like the Croxigore and the guard, like just having the one guard on the Saurus blocker. Like I do think that is like, that means that like the Lizardmen are gonna put up a like, maybe I would give them a slight advantage in like just purely the bash war, but like because of the blitzers like being able to run down the skinks if he's not careful, and every skink that he loses is so precious compared to like, he's probably not going to be doing much of all damage to the orcs with their heavy armor and like no stunty fragility. So
yeah, if you get some nasty removals, this
mm,
could go either way.
yeah,
I think you have to remember that Stevens Orc team's got that mighty blow. So
yeah,
if there are any skinks loose,
yeah,
then they're going to be going off the pitch
yeah,
fairly easily. I suspect this game may well come down to if you noticed on the Orc team that Stevens submitted no troll, so
mm,
it may come down to an ill-conceived,
yeah,
1 in 9 on the Crocs, or a bonehead on the Crocs at a critical time. It could be
yeah,
that tight, because if that Crocs is marked out the game by an Orc lineman, it then becomes much more difficult for those Sauruses to deal with things.
yeah.
Yeah.
Drisfield, Necromantic Horror, and the last of the teams that made an appearance on your team list. Block
Yeah,
Werewolf,
I've got.
Guard Mighty Blow Wraith,
Mm,
and then Block Wrestle Blue
yeah,
Runner, and the two Flesh Golems have Guard. Only the 2 rerolls, and then 1 assist
yeah.
and 5 zombies. I can't say that I agree with the Mighty Blow on the like to me like
Well,
the Necro Wraith is just one of those players where you go like you slap guard on it and it is just done as a player like that it's like does it need anything more? Very good.
well, I will. I take great pleasure in being able to play Dries, but yeah, it's fortunate, I guess, that he's got these mighty blow wraith and he comes up against Amazons.
Yeah.
So yeah, because his werewolf claws aren't going to do much
Mm.
in that situation. I guess their frenzy will come into play, but yeah. So it might actually bear some fruits. But as you said, the guard on the flesh golems with the 2 rerolls is potentially a recipe for
Yeah.
inconvenience for Dries. So
Yeah.
yeah, hopefully that plays out.
But yeah,
Keeping his cards close to his chest because that's his matchup.
wouldn't I mean obviously wouldn't want to give out any secret strategies or tactics them.
This is just again, this is a coin flip on the
Yeah.
racial matchup that this doesn't favour either team in my opinion. I think these are 2 of the strongest races in Blood Bowl in this particular rule set.
Mm.
I think in general tournaments where you can't give the extra things to people,
Mm.
it favours Amazons. But
Yeah.
in this rule set with the additional skills, this is a very tight matchup. This one, but I have full faith in our captain leading from the front. So why should I doubt it now?
I shall do my very best.
Very unlike him. Normally says, "I'm just going to win it." That's what he normally says.
Yeah.
Feeling a little shy maybe on the stream. We'll forgive him that.
Well, no.
Modesty.
Yeah. Um. Then we have Horyuk, humans. Um. Something that like I personally quite like him. Like a lot of my tabletop experience is, I mean, playing in UKBBL tabletop tournaments has been like playing humans, and I felt that I did decently well with them. Obviously, that was before the 2020 update to the game, so much has changed since. But yeah, human haven't seen any other human rosters so far, and like nobody's brought up humans as a possible. We might have brought this, so I wonder like do you?
I love humans.
Mm.
I think they're a great team.
Mm.
It's one of those teams where it's overlooked so much. Obviously, rules pack dependent. I think typically there's always just a situation where there's something more interesting to
Mm.
take.
Mm.
But you've got the recipe that we could do here. Plenty of guard,
Mm.
the tackle mighty blow piece.
Mm-hmm.
Thank God I'm not playing this
Mm.
this roster
Mm.
first round. And you've got the bench and you've got the rerolls. Yeah, when sometimes if you've never sat down and worked out a human roster for a while,
Mm.
just the next time you've got a one dayer coming up or something, see what you can do with humans because you'll probably be surprised at what you can actually afford.
Mm.
He's got the pleasure of playing probably our worst coach, Andy Davo.
Man.
Yeah,
And so
yeah,
he's got 4 guard as well.
Yeah. Matching guard
And
for guard. Yep.
obviously the claw kicks in
Mm.
um, on all those very precious. That what Andy does, and you hear it on his stream all the time.
Mm.
He will take very good care to make sure he's selecting the right blitz targets
Mm.
and go
mm,
really target those important players. So that mighty blow tackle piece not going to last very long. He'll either
Mm.
end up with a claw to the face, or he'll end up with being surfed. Knowing Davo,
Mm.
you've got. I mean, forget the racial matchup here, which I think also beneficial. I think Necro versus Human, I think
Yeah.
favors the Necro. It's Andy Davo.
Yeah.
We're going to expect him to do his thing here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, Horiak, but it's yeah, he's our coach, and good luck. I mean, believe me. However, if you do beat him, he won't hear the end of it for a year. So,
yeah.
uh,
Don't worry, we'll rip him.
Yeah.
yeah,
I think like the only sort of like I would say maybe like not even like a major advantage, but like the only real advantage that I can see like from this human roster facing off against like Andy Davo's Necro roster is the fact that he does have a passing game, 2 catchers and the thrower. So that is something that he can do. But it is
And he has a one turner that's feasible against
yeah,
Necro.
it is like so long as the ogre and the halfling stay on the pitch, like the throw teammate is a possibility. Not something to be relied upon, of course, but it is
I
there.
think I think it's the only option against the Necro because of the stand firm side
Yeah,
skills and
exactly.
how
Yeah. So
Yeah,
very tough.
Necro don't often have to worry about it as a thing, and
yeah,
here we are.
yeah. So,
Yeah.
but definitely, like I would say, definitely Necro favored in the matchup, certainly because like even with like matching guard for guard, like I just feel that like the Necro team has the better of the defenses there. Like even though they don't have as
Yeah.
much strength with, but and like
The,
obviously Andy is one of those
Yeah,
people who
I
yeah.
think yeah. So this human team into one of our elf players or my Amazons
Mm,
is
Oh, I'd hate
certainly
it. I would hate
slightly
this
more
matchup.
uncomfortable prospect. Yeah.
It's
yeah.
horrendous. That we've been, I think, overall, and looking at this around, the racial matchups do slightly favour us.
Mm. All right.
Yeah. Good luck, Horiak, because going back to the question that Alessis asked a little while ago, of what would be your best achievement? Us to win the whole thing and Davo to go 006 would be the absolute ideal. Because then he'd never live it down. He'd
Andy,
be
I I do not echo Gav's sentiments there.
EUROBOWL champion with 006. Come on.
It
And
will
that'd be on
certainly
his
make
record.
history.
That'd be on his record forever if
Uh,
that were to happen.
um, might even have like a festival dedicated to it in Wales, I guess. But moving on, we have another mention of a Phoenix. This time, JC Phoenix. I do not know what the JC there stands for. And he's playing another roster that we have not seen before so far. Horn. Um,
Yeah.
I remember the corn from like Chaos Edition, like the Cyanide game, but other than that, like I have no idea how much they've really changed the team. So I'm entirely relying on your impressions.
It's not going to be pleasant for
Yeah.
Dark Elves. I
Mm,
think with the massed frenzy on strength 4 players, those Bloodseekers and
yeah,
strength 4, they get, the blitzers are going to be susceptible just from the sheer amount of block dice that are thrown at them.
yeah.
The Bloodspawn has Claw and Mighty Blow to
Mm,
start with, which is horrendous as well.
yeah,
So your linemen are in trouble.
yep.
Um, what is a pleasant thing with the Bloodspawn is he's only AV 9+. So
Mm,
if you do get the chance to, yeah,
try to
have
put
a
the
go
hurt
at
in.
him,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's one of those with the corn. This if you sit down against this roster, you think, my God, this looks terrifying.
Mm,
But certain things come into play. One of the Bloodseekers has got guard,
mm,
so if that's throwing blocks, it's risking its 1 in 9s, only 2 rerolls.
yeah,
Obviously, the Bloodborne Marauders, low armor on those guys, they can drop.
yep.
Um, so the problem here is, did we say this was our Dark Elf
yeah,
matchup?
Yep.
yeah.
You're
Thank God it's
talking
not
about a
fair.
team that
It would be horrendous for
it can.
Kyle.
This is a team that can get itself pulled out of position.
Mm,
And obviously, if you're against a team like Dark Elves with the ability to take advantage of that and react,
mm,
so it's destructive. Again, if it's hitting a Dark Elf lineman,
mm,
maybe the armor holds, and you don't get the removals that you need really with Corn.
mm,
So yeah,
It's worth
it could
remembering.
work.
It is worth remembering, and I'm saying this not for Michael Jones because he doesn't have any wrestle pieces, but
mm,
those 2 Corngors that have got block, they start with Juggernaut. So the Juggernaut can cancel out the wrestle, and then you can just use your block to take them down on
yeah.
blitzes. So they are horrible. I mean, if this was my matchup,
Mm,
I would not be happy with this draw for me,
yeah.
because they're going to just cream through my catchers,
Yeah.
which would be awful, And with 4 of them, you can't shield the catches off from all of them
Yeah.
with your linemen. So yeah, they are slow, and as Tom said, the Marauders, who
Mm.
also have frenzy, are only AV8 plus.
Yeah.
So if you can pop those, and then you're short manned, but there's only going to be 2 of them on the pitch at a time, and only 2 rerolls. That
Yeah.
that's gonna if the Marauders, you tend to. I played Corn on Monday night this week with my
Mm.
Nurgle team in
Mm.
my local league,
Mm.
and in one turn, my Corn opponent, he double skulled with the opening block, had to
Mm.
reroll it, got a push,
Mm.
and in the frenzy block he got another double skull, so he just ripped through his rerolls early doors.
Yeah.
And then without rerolls, just because of the amount of blocks that they're throwing, do tend to end turn early, because
Yeah.
every that's just the way it goes. And that guard, yeah, I mean the guard Bloodseeker, I think I've gone block on it, to be honest.
Mm.
They've got the strength already.
Mm.
They can always open up a hole, but yeah, I'm pleased that I'm
I
not
think
playing them.
I think what I've seen, certainly Davo like some guard on his corn gores, because with the Juggernaut in there, you can blitz them into where you need that guard to be positioned.
Mm.
Yeah,
But
I guess I mean I don't know the coach, but if he's well versed in the surfing strategy,
Mm.
then if you're a player like Davo, you can end up losing 2 players to the
Mhm.
touchline as well, because you can chain your frenzy blocks towards the touchlines and
Yeah.
really target those key players. So
Yeah. And that
yeah,
is something that I did want to touch upon, like in specific with for the Dark Elf matchup, is that like one of the like I found it a great tool to have like the 2 switches with frenzy on the Dark Elf, because it gives me that extra threat on the sideline, right? But
yeah,
now that is both a blessing and a curse in this matchup, because like it's
yeah,
not very often that you run into another team that has is going to have like enough frenzy, if you position yourself correctly, that you can
yeah.
avoid like the worst of your own frenzy potentially. But here it's everywhere. You need to be careful.
I mean, if I was playing them with the high elves, I don't
Mm.
have the frenzy, but I would just be disengaging.
Yeah.
Move away. There's no tackle.
Yeah.
Just disengage and screen off when they're on offense, and hope that your armor holds against that blood spawn. That's the guy.
Yeah.
If
yeah,
you can remove that blood spawn, then things become more comfortable, because they've got no kill skills. There's no mighty blow anywhere else. So
obviously the sort of uncomfortable thing for a Dark Elf player is that when that Bloodspawn frenzies itself into a position where, if you had cheaper linemen, you would throw a foul.
Yeah.
You're probably not going to do that with Dark Elves. So.
No, 70K is too it's too expensive to lose when you don't have like extras on the roster.
yeah, you've got to rely on the 9+, the
Yeah.
lack of armor it has.
Just stab it.
Yeah.
The assassin.
or or step it. Yeah.
The problem with this, I did think about that. The problem, I'd rather, if I'm stabbing this team, I'm
Mm.
stabbing the Marauders, because they're 8+.
Yeah.
You don't want to be stabbing a Claw Mighty Blow piece. I mean, the Claw doesn't do anything against the Assassins, I suppose, does it? But the Mighty Blow certainly does.
No,
Yeah, and they've got no blocking skills, the Assassins. So
I shan't speak too much about the like assassin stabbing. Not the greatest of targets, considering that I have won a game of Blood Bowl with double assassin build Dark Elves against Andy Davos like Chaos team, by going for a blitz stab on his Chaos Warrior ball carrier and getting him KO'd. So
I mean, that kind of makes more sense. If he's carrying on a strength 4 piece,
yeah.
then sometimes that is the better option.
Yeah.
But you're not
Yeah.
you're not like, don't forget the Bloodseeker's edge is 4+. It's not as good as the
Yeah.
Chaos Warriors. A Chaos Warrior is 3+. So
Yeah.
you're not going to carry the ball on one of the Bloodseekers,
Mm.
because they just don't have the agility to get away.
Yeah.
And they can often then frenzy themselves into a bit of a mess if that's what you're trying to block his way out of it.
Yeah.
The key players here are the Corngors,
Yeah.
and everything
Yeah.
else is there to kill you. So
It's whether if you can get that strip ball hit somewhere, whether
Mm.
you've got the pieces that can react to the recovery.
Mm.
yeah,
All right.
yeah, yeah.
Mind
I'm
Devil.
not sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say I'm not certain about the Cornwall with wrestle, to be honest.
Mm.
Yeah, just a feeling.
I think like because like either it was either a wrestle or a tackle, I think, for that skill.
It isn't. There was no tackle on the team, was there?
Yeah, there is
No.
nothing.
So
Yeah.
yeah. It just gives another opportunity as a sacking threat.
Yeah.
So Tom, Dakar against vampires. Then
Yeah,
does this work?
Mind Devil, vampires, and he's running he's running a Vargeist and the full complement of the regular vampires.
And only 2 rerolls, which
And only
is
2 rerolls, which is and he doesn't have leader on either of the throwers, just block and 2 dodges on the runners, and Juggernaut for the Vargeist. Like this is I've seen vampire rosters, and like the last vampire roster that we looked at was on the Spanish team, and it was an entirely unexpected looking vampire team, and this is another one. Like,
yeah. I mean, you're only going to be able to blitz with the Vargeist or one of the blitzers
mm,
each turn.
mm,
And if they want to move, they need to roll a 3+.
mm,
And you've only got 2 rerolls. You can't really throw we've talked about this in the Welsh Greece chat group on
mm,
WhatsApp.
mm,
Yeah, this is Bertmack's opposition.
mm,
So this is I think this favours the Wood Elves, to be honest, because we're hoping that the vampires, tend to roll one of their bloodlusts at a key time, leaving the ball carrier open to a strip ball war dancer, something
mhm,
like that.
That's the
The ri-
thing. The obviously with the vampires, um, when they come for you with the big turn,
mm,
and they gaze everything and they sack your ball carrier.
mm,
The key thing for the vampire team, similar to a slan team, is whether they've got the recovery
mm,
after it's all gone. And not only that, but a vampire team against a wood elf team has to say, okay, do I have the recovery, and is my recovery safe from the strip ball
mm.
that's going to come immediately after it? So yeah, I would. I don't like to. I don't like to say typically when I don't like someone's roster.
Mm,
Block is never bad, dodge is never bad.
mm, mm,
Juggernaut a big guy is fine.
They're not bad skills.
Um, yeah, exactly. And they're vampires at the end of the day. So the coach will come up against players that aren't going to sit on the back line
mm,
with a war dancer,
mm.
and this will be a lot more relevant. 2 rerolls, yes, that's low, uh, and yeah, hopefully this is one that John can deal with.
Birdmac did say in the chat that he doesn't think that he'll be fielding all 7 at the same time for the vampire players. And yeah, I don't like I can easily see him like on defense, like dropping the vampire like at least one of the vampire runners back on the bench, but
No, I think the runners will be on the pitch. You have to have both the runners because they're movement 8. I think it'll be one of the blitzers that stays on the bench, to be honest.
but
Yeah,
I
that's
think
less reliable.
I think but as Tom said, the runner's the player that's likely to go and try to recover the ball.
yeah,
And they're only strength 3, so they
yeah,
are going to be very susceptible to the strip ball war dancer.
yeah.
And then it'll be a case of the recovery, hand off to a catcher, and off you go.
Yeah, I
Um,
do. I having seen plenty of like vampire rosters, like it has been brought up, like because again I'm not very familiar with like how the new vampires function. Haven't ever seen them before. So and like the prevailing sort of attitude seems to have been that like generally speaking, elves are going to be like a tougher matchup for vampires because of the
yeah,
fact that
Yeah,
they can they can position themselves to screen very well, and even if you get past the screen, they are mobile enough generally to be able to recover from attacking their ball
yes,
carrier.
100%. The key thing is whether you can recover.
Mm,
So if you're playing a team that's slower, and less responsive,
mm,
then vampires can be awful. So yeah, I like some strip ball on a vampire team. Torquemada usually uses some strip ball.
mm,
Uh, yeah, I guess you could bench one of the blitzers.
mm.
Um, Yeah.
I could like in an elf like facing off against an elf. I could even see benching the var guys, like just to get more consistency on the field rather than like perhaps more. That is
One of the things,
Mm.
Bearing in mind that Tom has built the Wood Elf team for the one turn
Mm,
option,
mm,
okay, and you've got a tree on the Wood Elf team.
yeah.
If you're going for that one turn score at the end of the first half,
Mm.
then how likely is it that he's going to put one of his vampires on the line of scrimmage? He doesn't. Does he have an Apo? He doesn't have an Apo.
He does not have an apple either. No.
No, so he's relying on regen.
Yeah.
So I played at the UKTC this year in round 6. I actually played against vampires, a 175 vampire team. And exactly that thing happened. And my opponent chose not to put the vampires on the line of scrimmage because he was worried about getting a removal,
Yeah.
losing one of his vampires because I'd have just ganged up on it. And by doing that, it actually lent itself into me getting the one turn option, which I then proceeded to score.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's interesting. If you're going to end up putting thralls on the line of scrummage, again, you're putting AV8 plus players on the line as well.
Yeah.
And then vampires without thralls. And that's how you beat vampires. You target the thralls. You don't worry about the vampires so much on defense. Vampires are going to do what vampires are going to do. It's about trying to increase their attrition because there will be a time that he needs to bite a thrall.
Yep.
Because he's not going to want to leave holes in his line because that will lend itself to the Daka. Because if one of those vampires bloodlusts at an inconvenient time, he's either got to eat the bloodlust or eat the thrall, and that's going to leave a gap in the line which the Daka will lend itself into very nicely on offense. So I think personally from this particular matchup, again, it favors us slightly. Yeah,
I
and
think
like
the
you
other
said,
thing to note here is that this is actually, ironically, one of the games where potentially there's more the Wood Elves can do on defense, because this isn't a case of it. The ball in 2 turns is going to be inside a pack of orcs with guard and tackle. There may be positional slip ups here and there. There's no guard. There's no sure hands. The throwers don't have sure hands built in, do they?
I don't think so. No.
So
no.
yeah, so even the runners, that's just where your tackler comes in, perhaps as well. So yeah, it's interesting. Obviously,
A failed
Mind
pickup
Devil,
is
we
lethal
don't.
for vampires, isn't it? A failed pickup against Wood Elves is
Yeah,
exactly what the Wood Elf coach wants, and that's 2 rerolls. If that's on
Yeah.
turn 2, are you going to eat the reroll?
Yeah.
It's a tough decision, and it will happen
There.
at some point.
Yeah, like it is a 1 in 6 chance of that happening. It is bound to happen. Right.
but just a final thought on it. Obviously, we we don't know Mind Devil too well as a coach, so not in any way knocking the decision that
No,
they've gone
absolutely not.
through with their roster selection.
Mm.
It's still a game that John has to apply himself to very carefully. It's his first EuroBowl, so it's going to be a very interesting match to watch.
Yeah, I think like overall, like the sort of racial matchups here have been very interesting. Like none of them have felt like a box standard. This is exactly what is going to happen. Like there has always been like some kind of an edge, some kind of an angle that like might go one way or the other, and that's big in the game. I will congratulate the two of you. By the way, we're closing in on the 2 hour mark. So if like if either of you
Oh God,
do need to move on, please do let me know.
I'm sorry,
I'm
everyone.
perfectly comfortable like moving on, continuing.
Well, it's later in Finland than it is here, so
Hey, yeah, it is 1 a.m. closing in on, so we're fine. We'll deal with like 3 hours of sleep. Right. So, Yapie, I
let's just
think.
got S Jappy, I think.
S
S,
Jappy. Fair enough.
yeah.
Could be
This is my matchup.
Black Orcs.
Yeah.
You're
This
happy
is
about this, isn't it? Aren't you?
um It depends, I guess. If the mighty blow kicks in on the line of scrimmage, it could be bad. But again, it's another reason to take High Elves over Skaven for
Yeah.
sure. It's going to be a case of me not
Yeah.
basing those Black Orcs and hitting the goblins really. You know, I've got
It's I'm still honestly just in shock looking at that and going like, he actually did take mighty blow, mighty blow, mighty blow, mighty blow, mighty blow, and then sprinkle 3 tackles in there for good measure.
yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. Funnily enough, just to segue a little bit, I think it was my second EuroBowl.
Mm,
Maybe it was Copenhagen. I can't remember. But I took 6 Mighty Blow dwarfs,
mm.
and I remember playing against I think it was the Dutch team, and I came up against his Elven Union, and I did not remove one single player. So
Mm.
there you go.
Yeah, I'm not going to be standing around to get punched in this game. You know,
Yeah,
I'll be screening and using my 4 rerolls to dodge away. And the dodge players, as long as they're not standing next to the tackle players, I'll be careful about that. And just, you know, I won't base. I won't give them extra. I've got quite a bit of Black Hawk experience. I play Black Hawks quite a bit myself,
Mhm.
just for fun. Because I've got the lovely Grebo Cutamals Black Porks team.
Mm-mm.
Um, uh, he's pretty competent with his Black Hawks at S Jappy. He's
Mm.
172.
Mm.
It's pretty good record. But yeah, I mean, it's a case of me just avoiding being punched and
Yeah.
then taking the opportunities when they arise. Not going that troll will go stupid at some points. There's no guard to be
Yeah.
worried about either.
Yeah.
So
That.
it's just a case of avoiding standing too long next to the Black Orcs unless I feel I've got a sniff of the ball. And kick will help me a great deal
Mm.
here. Kick will be fantastic against this.
Mhm.
So fingers crossed this one goes well. But yes, I think even if it wasn't me, I think this favours an elf team.
Yeah.
I think any of our elves would fancy this matchup. The high elves, the dark elves, or the wood elves would be happy with this. And I've only got 2 dodgers, so the tackles not going to come into play. They're not going to get near my blitzers because they're just too slow.
Yeah.
So, you know, so it's been on its head. If I get unlucky, if he chooses to receive and then gets 3 removals on the line of scrimmage and I'm down to 8 elves, it could potentially be trickier to defend. If that happens on offense, 8 elves is more than enough to score. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's just getting to those goblins. You know, the blitzers will be busy
Yeah. It
going
is.
for those.
It certainly does like rub me a little bit the wrong way that he doesn't have like even the one guard, because I feel that like Black Orcs have a like a sort of decent, like into many a bash team, especially like in a tournament setting. I feel that like because of the amount of strength and with like the grab brawler like combo where they can like really control the space like with those, like I feel that like into more like bash heavy teams like Black Orcs can do kind of like punch above their weight, like what they normally be considered as a tier of a team. But like with just going
yeah,
full on
I,
into that mighty blow, it just feels a little.
absolutely. I mean, if you think about this, there's a couple of other aspects, isn't there?
Mm,
There's no block, so
mm, mm,
um, you know, Gav isn't going to be standing the Lionels next to these guys. So grab and brawler doesn't work on a blitz. So those 2 skills are going to be most of the time um, unused. And this is actually the kind of thing where if this was into Andy Davo, and you know these Black Hawks were getting to hit zombies every turn, it could be it could be actually a worse matchup for us. You know, that's Andy Davo, because he's got targets and everything has value ultimately. Uh, you know, if he's if he comes up against a team that's got to stand stuff next to these Blackhawks ultimately,
mm.
then look, the dice can just happen, can't they?
Yeah,
Um, but against, I think this is definitely a good matchup for us.
yeah.
Funnily enough, I've just had a look at my record versus Black Orcs, and I'm 50%.
Hmm.
So 2-2-2. And with high odds, I'm 2 wins, 2 losses against Black Orcs. So, you know,
Good,
Well,
good,
yeah. Well, you're
excellent.
definitely going to attempt to shift those
improve that.
percentages in your favor now, like with this.
I hope so.
Well, either way, there's going to be a shift in that percentage one way.
Yeah.
Last but not least, we have the Tizer, Skaven Rust, and this one, like, about what I expect to see on a Skaven Rust. I'll be honest. Like the mighty blow on the Blitzer, rather than having a tackle there, is like when you have a Rat Ogre, like I feel that like the Blitzer with mighty blow, like because like the Rat Ogre is probably going to be your primary blitzing time. It's like I feel that like the tackle probably better in the sense like it gives you a little bit more. How would you say? It gives you a little bit more tool rather than just more killing power.
This again, speaking as a fairly decent Gaven coach myself, this is a horrible matchup. Lizards versus Skaven is one of my least favourite matchups.
Mm-mm.
I think Rats really struggle against the Lizards. I think because the linemen are the ones that you put on the line, and they're facing against block Sauruses,
Yeah.
and they've only got AV8 plus. But and this will be an attrition thing. You know that this is one where the Lizards will be looking to go 2-1, grind it out, and conversely to that, Skaven are going to be trying to do the dodges into sack the skink. So it'll be about ball security. With a bit of luck, the ball will go off the pitch, and you can give the ball to a Saurus.
And I mean, I feel that it's one of those like unlike against many like traditional sort of like heavy bash team, the fact that the Skinks do have that movement 8 or movement 7 in the case, that means that they are actually like fully capable of like keeping up with the Skaven gutter runner. And
Yeah,
with like only having strength 2 on the gutter runners, like the fact that the Skinks have strength 2 doesn't matter like that much.
yeah,
So
and the Crocs is prehensile tail
oh,
will
the
come
like
into
the
its own.
linemen are
Yeah,
not getting away from the
yeah,
Croxigore. That
yeah, yeah.
It
It's
gets it certainly it gets less mileage out of that mighty blow against
mm-hmm.
line of scrimmage hits. You could say, okay, if it's a line of scrimmage hitter, then that's not going to bode that well. Strip ball, obviously, is strip
that's the
ball and
danger.
wrestle
Those are the danger
Yeah.
is
pieces.
very applicable in this match.
Obviously, the
And
Rat
obviously,
Ogre, like the Rat Ogre with the claw built in, like if he starts actually removing like the Taurus, and obviously you will need to keep in mind the frenzy like threat on the sidelines. But I would,
Yeah, I think you take the Rat Ogre really in this particular instance with the sidestep. This is built for one turning.
yeah,
yeah,
Which
yeah.
again, it will be down to Orcs to being very disciplined on his one turn defense
yeah,
and setting up correctly and making it hard.
That does also give this build, just talking about the mighty blow
mm,
rather than the tackle. If depending on the matchup, obviously, if you've
mm,
got you don't want to send your juggernaut in on a blitz. You've got a second blitzing option because obviously it's so important to keep that rat ogre alive.
yeah.
Yeah,
But yeah, I would agree that like lizards are like I mean, Skaven are one of those teams that they're guaranteed almost to like score at least one in a game. It like with just four gutter runners and a thrower, like sure hands pass and like passing on plus with move 7 on the like it is just one of those things that very easy for them to at least get one. So like
Yeah,
it's still like Skaven are like I would say that unless they get like horribly mutilated. I think like Skaven can like is one of those teams that you like most team captains can like are probably going to go like I can like generally expect a draw out of this game because of the fact that the Skaven are just so good at bring that one touchdown.
yeah.
Um, but it is definitely, I think, like Blizzards are certainly probably not one of his favorite matchups as a Skaven coach.
Yeah, yeah.
No, for sure.
All right, but that is every matchup, every coach on the Belgium side gone through, and unless there like any closing statements that you wish to throw out to the listeners, to the fans, whoever might be what like.
No, I think we've kept everyone long enough on this. Well, we smashed the record so far. Yeah. Let's just go enjoy it. Aim for the top, and then see how we get on.
Mm. And
Sounds good.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it seems like a very nice, very good closing statement. Once again, thank you, gentlemen, for coming on and humoring me. Even noticed that it was, and
Well,
thank
very
you
welcome.
everybody
Absolute
in.
pleasure.
Yep. Thank you everybody in chat who and potentially those who will view this at a date from a recording. Hope you were enjoyed, even though it it certainly like while the structure was the same, the time span expanded tremendously. So hopefully we kept everybody entertained for the entire time, and
Sorry, everyone.
I mean, it was all quality talk, so it's not like like the people who would be watching this are like enthusiastic Blood Bowl players. Doubt anyone is take offense to talking more about Blood Bowl. Um, but yeah, hope you'll be here for the next one. So far we have locked in. As I said, we have the Greek captain and vice captain are going to take a little bit of time out of their busy day tomorrow. We are going to be starting at 20 p.m. Greek time, so that would be that would be no that would be 18 sorry 20 p.m. doesn't make it. Sorry, that would so 20:00 or 18:00 for UK people. We're going to be having the Greek captain and vice captain for the interview, and then after that there is going to be a short gap, and then we are going to be at 19. No, not 19. At 21 UK time, we're going to be having the Danish captain coming in. I am currently in talks with other captains as well to see if we can, if there is any possibility to get any more interviews done, because like obviously I'm doing sort of try to get as many teams as possible in because I personally find it interesting, and I hope that it's going to like hype up the like EUROBOWL as the sort of great community event that it is. So potentially might get on a sort of short notice. There might be an even earlier interview if we get it scheduled. But with that said, once again, thank you for everybody for watching and participating. And as I always say, good day, good afternoon, good evening, good night, whatever happens to be the time of day for you. Have a good one.